Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Sonic Yoda from SEGADriven here with another EGX impressions video. This time we're going to talk about Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal, which is the 3DS equivalent of the Sonic Boom game. Bizarrely, two very different games actually. Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric on Wii U is a 3D action-orientated game, and Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal, as I've now discovered, is considerably more platform-based and, bizarrely, a better experience, I've got to say. I actually played this first at EGX today, and yeah, I was really taken aback by how solid it is, actually. So the platforming is very traditional Sonic, and what I quite like about it is that even though you can play as 4 characters on the fly, every single one of them has its core mechanics of running and jumping exactly the same. So they all run at the same speed, they all jump at the same jump height, which is a really interesting way of dealing with the gameplay, because it doesn't matter what character you're using for any of the running or platforming sections. You only need to switch them when it becomes specific for you to do so. So, for instance, there are sections where you have to dig into the ground, so Knuckles becomes very important to those because he is the digging character, and he acts actually very similar to the drill power-up from the Sonic Colors franchise. I say franchise, you know, they were included in Sonic Lost World as well. But yeah, so it's not your typical just burrow into the surface and find something like it was in the Adventure series. This actually is a proper, there will be an underground path for you to take that only Knuckles can take, so you guide him through the dirt basically. So yeah, he becomes quite invaluable for that. Tails is quite interesting actually. So Tails has 2 special things, I suppose, character traits. So you can throw sticky bombs at enemies to attack, and that. But I think you can also just jump on enemies as per the normal characters anyway. But that's just something that Tails has. But the main, special maneuver that Tails has is there are certain bits of the stages where there'll be air currents which can drift you either horizontally or vertically. But you have to be Tails in flight mode for those to actually guide you through those sections. So that's how they use Tails. The other character is obviously the new one, Styx, the Jungle Badger. Now, Styx is Styx's thing is she has a boomerang, right, and that becomes available. That becomes important for switches that you can't reach otherwise. So I think it's the B button you use to attack, or use each character's specific moves, and so you hold it, and then the boomerang goes off, and you use the circle pad to then guide the boomerang in its path. So sometimes the switch will be directly across you, so you don't have to actually guide it, you just go straight along. But sometimes it can be through a little maze and you have to guide it through that. So that's Styx is very, she's got a very specific action that allows you to activate switches and things. Sonic's is quite an interesting one actually. It's a sort of air dash, so you have a very brief sort of dash. It can be used as an attack, and it can also be used to get up to higher places. So you can direct it in any direction. It doesn't matter what way you go with it. And that becomes useful for, like I say, getting up to higher platforms. But there are certain bits in the stages which are blocked off by sort of big mechanical drills. So the idea is you'll air dash through them and blow them up, and then you'll obviously, there's a new path that's just now open to you. So yeah, they've all got things that are very specific to them, but also their core mechanics are also the same. So basically, the platforming and speed doesn't change at any given point, regardless of what character you're using, and I quite like that a lot actually. So the pace is always quite quick, and yeah, everybody functions the same, and nothing really catches you off guard in regards to different characters' own controls, other than their special moves. That's it, basically. Also worth mentioning is the old laser whip, which I keep forgetting the name of. So the way this is used in Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal is generally it's used for getting over gaps. So there'll be sort of suspended hooks that you can hook onto with the laser whip, and then you can swing across using that way. It's quite a nice fluid motion actually, so it feels very natural. There are also certain enemies which are shielded with sort of like a purple lasery shield, and you need to diffuse that by using the laser whip, and then they become available to attack, so that's quite cool. There's also these sections where you have to slingshot yourself next to another section, and those are also done via this lasery whip thing. So you go into the platform, you pull yourself back, and the way you do it is actually on the touchpad of the 3DS, so you pull the slingshot back and then release to fling the character off. It's actually quite a satisfying little thing, even though it's just, you know, a way of getting you to progress through the game, so that was quite nice as well. Another thing worth mentioning is the fact that there is actually a run button, which is very similar to obviously Sonic Lost World. It's actually situated in a much nicer, more comfortable place actually than Sonic Lost World, which was it was based on the triggers. So now it's on the X button, and yeah, it basically makes your character move at a higher speed. It actually feels a little bit more like it suits this better actually, because yeah, when you're doing character-specific things like digging and fighting, or you know, activating switches and things like that, you need to be at a lower speed because it just makes things a lot more manageable. So when you then get a speed section where you're running through loops and corkscrews and stuff, it makes sense for you to then activate the running, and it's just a nice, more fluid experience. So yeah, it's not as intrusive as Sonic Lost World, and it feels a lot more comfortable to do. They've just thought about what worked in previous games, or you know, how they could make them work better, and it's just, yeah, it's quite a nice experience actually, I've got to say. The running definitely feels natural, and not, you know, that you're hindered by not holding the run button. The only disappointing bit about Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal that I played was there was a section where you enter a small sort of water tank with what Tails calls the Sea Fox. Now it's sort of like a remote controlled little fox-based sub, and you travel through this area, and the idea is to find some hidden items. But it just felt like a distraction. It just felt like it was kind of killing the flow of the stage and giving you something to find unnecessarily. So yeah, you basically get like a water section where you have to blow through rocks and stuff so that you can traverse this maze and find these hidden items. You're against the time in these sections, so there will be little purple clocks that you can collect to increase your time. If you hit anything, it you know, it knocks time off your counter, and yeah, it just felt unnecessary. There was no need for it to be there, and it broke the flow of the stage. So yeah, that was a really I don't know, that's one of the few things about the game that I was a bit like, did this need to happen? The stage that I played was incredibly well designed around everybody's moveset, so it felt like there were lots and lots of places that you could go and explore, and it was multi-tiered, and each area was opened for, you know, via each character's special moves, and it was, you know, quite a smart little design actually, and I was quite impressed with it. The other thing I want to mention is the game's 3D. So obviously on the 3DS you have 3D. It's actually one of, I really like it when developers do this. Instead of making everything pop out at you, they actually add depth, so things are sort of sunk into the screen more. So it's a lot nicer on the eyes when you do that sort of thing. And so yeah, everything feels a little bit further off, gives it a little bit more depth, which is quite handy considering it's a 2D game as well, so it generally feels like the space is a little bit more open. And also, I think the jungle stage, it's either sort of like fireflies or things like that, just they sort of drift around in your peripheral vision in the front, so that's quite a nice little effect. It's not too distracting, but yeah, it's a good use of the 3D, I've got to say. So yeah, definitely, it doesn't really add too much, it's got to be said, but it's one of those games that does it quite well, so yeah, not bad on the old 3D front there. So yeah, there you go, Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal. Surprisingly decent little game, and I'm actually looking forward to it a lot more than I am the Wii U version now. So yeah, there you go. Right, so you've been watching the SEGADriven YouTube channel. I've been Sonic Yoda, and this has been another of our EGX impressions videos. Next up, we will be talking a Project Diva F2nd, which was also at EGX. So yeah, tune in next time.